Hello, Laziali all over the world. Unfortunately, it's not what we were hoping for when football was back to see our Lazio playing finally. It was a tough match. We all knew it. Atalanta had a match in hand, so was uh, more prepared for this. But Alistair, looking Lazio go two goal ahead in 25 minutes, who could expect that the match would end this way?
Um, yeah, I mean, probably anyone watching the game, to be honest. it was it was a really strange match. It was a really disappointing game, but yeah, I think that Lazio obviously started really fast, got the two early goals, but on the whole, I think that it was a really disappointing performance. I think from the start onwards, we saw that the team is pretty rusty and quite tired. I think actually, to be honest, having watched every single Serie A game so far since the restart, the Lazio are one of the teams I think this break has affected the worst in terms of the level of performance they were at before and the level of performance we saw in their first game back. I think there was quite a big drop off. And that's really concerning. It was always going to be a difficult game. Atalanta away was never going to be easy, but at the same time, I think that when you look beyond the actual result and the way that the game went, thinking purely about the condition of the players and the way they played in comparison to where they were before the break, it was quite a big difference.
I agree. We have to say that Atalanta is the worst team to play against. I mean, it's the only team that puts you under pressure like that. Um, Maybe I thought that we were running too much in the first 20 minutes. I was like, okay, let's calm down, and because it's 90 minutes, it's not 20. I think they were so furious to win this match that they didn't remember that there are 90 minutes, and they didn't remember that Lazio didn't play for the last 2 months. So I think this affected badly the team, and obviously playing against Atalanta made a big difference. I saw before Inter playing against Sassuolo, and Sassuolo have been hammered last weekend by Atalanta, and Sassuolo deserved to draw against Inter. And I mean, we could talk about the young penalty that wasn't given, that was ridiculous. But you know, uh, one of the things that concerned me more is Luis Alberto. Uh, I did a video on my Italian YouTube channel Saturday, and even against Ternana, Luis Alberto didn't see sharp. And today you could see it. He made so many mistakes. It wasn't Luis Alberto we all knew. And he's the key for Lazio. He's so important for the club, for this team. And this is one of my biggest concerns watching the match today.
Yeah, I think he was probably the chief offender in terms of the guys you look to supply something in these big matches. I think he was the one who probably underperformed the most, but I don't think Chiro was too far behind him, to be honest. He had a couple of good chances that he missed. I mean, he wasn't too far away with them, but you'd expect him to hit the target at least. And also, I think just generally, he didn't really kind of get involved in the match as much as he normally does. You know, usually with Chiro, if he's not on the edge of the defender looking to get onto those passes and so on, then he's coming deep to actually try and get the ball and link up the midfield to the attack and so on. I don't think we saw nearly enough of that from him tonight, and I don't know, maybe it is just an energy thing, but all over the team you could see this. I mean, Milinkovic-Savic scored an absolutely incredible goal, but beyond the goal, I think he looked tired. I think Joaquin Correa had next to no impact on the game whatsoever. And even the likes of Francesco Acerbi, he had a tough game because his first game back, he's basically man-marking Duvan Zapata. And I think on the whole, he did quite well in that battle. But by the end of the game, he was looking tired too. I mean, there was a lot of guys in this team who you have to say what our concerns were going into this were mostly about the fact that Lazio's squad depth isn't great. And now you look at this performance, you look at how many big players didn't perform, and that becomes even more of a concern because I mean, one of the main things I want to talk about tonight is the substitutions, because it was the first opportunity we got to look at how Inzaghi's actually going to use this bench and this opportunity to use 5 subs. And I just don't think they made nearly as much of an impact as we would have liked. I think Caicedo was quite good. He offered something different. He was better than Correa, but beyond that, I mean, Lukaku was a joke. He was knackered after 10 minutes of being on the pitch. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised, but honestly, I saw him jogging back to defend, and he looked like he'd been out there as long as everyone else. I mean,
well, the problem is, Alistair, and we're going to answer some question because we have people asking about that. But Lazio of the top 3 teams were the only one who had missing Lulic, Leiva, Luis Felipe. It's Marusic. We lost 4 players that are usually starters. That's a big difference. Take off, Cristiano Ronaldo, Dybala, Chiellini, Pjanic, and then we talk about it. Lazio, who said, Pierre Nielsen asked, the squad is too thin. It can be 11 hard-fought games. How confident are you that we will hold on the top 4? This is the problem. Andre Anderson, we said it in the training, he's great. He didn't do pretty much nothing today. Lukaku came back after how many months that he didn't play? I think he didn't play a minute in 2020. Caicedo did pretty much nothing. But yeah, he was more efficient than Correa because Correa did even less. So yeah, this is my concern. And the biggest concern, Alistair, is Saturday, not Sunday. Saturday, there's Fiorentina. And Cataldi came off limping. Radu asked to be sub. Correa was injured. Who's going to play Saturday against Atalanta, against Fiorentina? The Primavera? Because this is the problem. This is a huge problem. Masey is asking if Tari is fit enough to play. I don't think so. But let's not forget another important point. We said about Marusic, Leiva, etc. But even Raul Moro and Adekanye were injured.
Yeah.
Guys, 2 months not playing and Lazio have 5 players out for injury. This is ridiculous. And we always said Raul Moro is very interesting. Adekanye can come in and, put under pressure the defense with his speed. Inzaghi didn't have that many options at all. And this is a huge problem. We saw Inter today. Conte, who doesn't love, made a lot of turnover. And we saw Inter play badly. Inter played poorly. But Inter had players, If Acerbi doesn't play next Saturday, I don't know who's going to play, This is a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, I suppose, is a theory, and the other thing is the reality. And it is annoying that we had to see what it's kind of like to have a semi-rotated team as early as this. I think that our main concerns going into it for both of us were about Johnny and the fact that the left wing back position wasn't available to Lulic or Marusic, who are more defensively capable than Johnny. Lo and behold, Atalanta scored their first goal from a Hateboer cross coming down the right-hand side. Could have seen that coming, but I mean, at least we kind of called that from a mile off. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, the worry about depth in the squad goes throughout. I mean, Andre Anderson came on today, and suddenly you're thinking, right, well, he is basically our alternative to Luis Alberto, because there is no one else in the squad who kind of plays in the same way that Alberto does, apart from Andre Anderson. Yeah. As in he's a trequartista who's been moved back to a midfield position. And Andre Anderson has played, like 2 or 3 games for Lazio before tonight? I mean, so you're talking about totally unproven guys like him, probably, I don't know, Falbo, Armini, Moro, Adekanye, guys who just either haven't played for Lazio at all or are about to be kind of given more opportunities than they ever have before. Even Lukaku. I mean, so it's going to really stretch the resources of this team. And for me, it was just disappointing that we kind of already saw the limitations of that tonight, because I think that, first of all, the 11 we picked, I think, was probably strong enough to beat Atalanta, but didn't put in the performance that they needed to because they weren't ready to. And secondly, beyond that 11, with those absences, Inzaghi didn't really have the options on the bench to be able to actually react to what was going on. Because my biggest disappointment was that Atalanta played with this ferocious energy, this really high press. And so they forced a lot of mistakes out of a Lazio team that was ready to make those mistakes because they haven't played for so long. But then by the time that Atalanta finally tired, which was probably after about 75 minutes or so, Lazio just weren't in a condition to be able to take advantage of that. That team was exhausted. So by the point where they could actually take a bit of initiative, they just didn't have the energy to, or the resources.
Two things about that. Before I reply to Harry Jenkins asking what went wrong after the 20th minutes, simply Lazio was done. Fatigue, tiredness, physical condition, worse. Do you think, because Atalanta didn't rotate the players today compared to last Saturday, I think this could be beneficial now, but in the long run, let's not forget there are still 12 matches to play. I think Atalanta could arrive knackered at the end of the season, especially considering that they still have the Champions League to play. Do you think rotating is the right choice, Alistair, even considering that Lazio at the moment hasn't got that many options?
Well, I've said from the start, I think one of the big tests of coaches in this period is going to be how they manage that rotation, because everyone's going to have to, and we're seeing that already, like you said, with Inter, the first team I think tonight to have played 3 games, so they're the first one to be put under that kind of microscope. After Juventus as well, I suppose. But those are the 2 best staffed teams in the league, I suppose. So it's going to get to a point very soon where you start seeing teams do this more. I mean, Sassuolo tonight, they changed their entire defence and midfield. 7 changes.
Players.
Yeah, their whole back 4 and their midfield 3 was changed from the one that lost Atalanta. So, this is getting to that point already where we're going to see who this affects the most. And this is going to be the point at which you realise which coaches know how to manage this better than others, because it is a new challenge. It's not something anyone is used to. And this is where Lazio are going to be most hamstrung in comparison to if we'd been able to finish the season properly, where we didn't have any European football and the other teams did. There's no point in us complaining about this every week, because it is what it is. But that was the advantage that Lazio had that we no longer have. And Inzaghi's going to have to work this out, because I don't think we have a strong enough kind of full rotation team to be able to really confidently beat anyone in this league. But I think that if he can make 2 or 3 changes to the team every week, and give rest to the guys who need it, then we can probably find a way through. But the problem is how you do that when you have so many nailed-on starters in this team. When you've got Acerbi, Radu, Lucas, Milinkovic, Alberto, Ciro, Lazzari. There's so many guys in this team already who will start every game if they're fit, basically.
And there's another problem. Today is Wednesday, if you're watching us on Wednesday. Thursday, it's a rest day. The players that didn't train, the other do a little bit of recovery. Then there's Friday, that is the day before the match. So they're not going to be training hard the day before the match. It's just going to be a light training. And then Saturday, there's the match. So Inzaghi hasn't really time to prepare the next match, neither to see how the players are recovering. So it's not going to be easy to prepare the players to play against Fiorentina, and this makes it tough to prepare players who haven't played that much in the last month or so, and maybe players like Ralmoro, Falbo, who haven't played a minute for Lazio. Well, Falbo played in the Europe League. Alistair, before we go further, Inzaghi has spoken, and I want to hear your thoughts about that, because basically Inzaghi said that obviously spiace. He said it all the time, but he said that one of the problem is about Lazio is that Lazio allowed 2 easy goals to Atalanta, the first one and the third one. So basically, he's saying that Lazio lost not because was tired, but because of these 2 mistakes. What's your thought? I agree that probably without the Strakosha mistake on the third goal, maybe Lazio would have get a point. I don't know, because Atalanta afterwards had so many chances. But do you agree on these quotes?
Well, it's funny he says that, because I think the most avoidable goal out of all of them was the second one, because the second one came from that mix-up between Acerbi and Strakosha. And as soon as I saw that happen, I know it's just the kind of trigger in your brain that goes off. But as soon as something that unnecessary happens, where, if in case our listeners don't remember this, a kind of harmless ball comes through, they're under no pressure, and Strakosha's coming to catch it, but Acerbi comes in front of him and heads it out for a corner instead. And it's one of those classic mix-ups that does happen in a game of football. But as soon as that happens, I'm thinking immediately, this is going to result in a goal.
Yeah,
because it's so stupid and it's so avoidable that this is definitely going to be a goal. And lo and behold, the corner comes in, gets knocked back out, and Malinovsky smashes it into the roof of the net. It's a brilliant finish. Don't worry about that. I'm not complaining about the way he hits it or anything like that. I mean, it's a great strike, but it's come from the most avoidable error in that game for me. So when he's talking about the first and the third goals, I think that Lazio can do better in both of those. I think Strakosha had a poor game all in all, and that was a bit worrying. But for me, the second one was actually the one that frustrated me the most, because it was the most, I suppose,
avoidable.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought Strakosha could have done better even on the second goal, to be honest with you. It was on his post, on his side. He should have at least touched it. But yeah, Strakosha
he hits it so hard, though. That
but it's not so far from him. So, anyway, I agree with you. Strakosha was poor today. The second and the third goal was definitely something he could have saved. Talking about injury players, because obviously this will be the key of the season, guys. Get ready, because injury situation will be fundamental from now on. He said that Lazio had a problem. Cataldi had a problem with the ankle, and Correa Radu had a little bit of problem with the leg. They asked to be substitution, to be subs. He said, I hope that they will recover for Fiorentina, so this Saturday. It's really important, because I have to be honest, Alistair, I think the defense is the only part where I'm quite confident that we can really do a turnover. Bastos, Vavro, I hope Luis Felipe will come back. We have players that can play instead of Patrick, Acerbi, and Radu. Where the things get tough, it's the midfield onwards, because Parolo came in, we don't have Leiva, we don't have Berisha. Falbo will play in the central position if someone has to miss a match. So, Raul Moro, I don't know where he's going to play. So, yeah, that's we don't have a Vice Lazzari at the moment, because Marusic is out. So this is where the biggest concern came out. So, yeah, what do you expect?
Yeah, I know. It's funny. It's funny that you say that, because I suppose that, a year or so ago or 2 years ago, we would never have said that the team you're most confident about is the defense. But it probably is. You're right. I mean,
yeah.
in terms of the options up front, you've only got 3 strikers. We've been saying ever since we started this podcast in 2017 that we need to sign a Vice Immobile, and they haven't. So this is what happens if you don't staff your squad properly. We only have 3 strikers, one of whom, Correa, has only been made a striker quite recently. And all these games are piling up now. So we're going to rely on the likes of, like I said before, you're relying on the likes of guys like Adekanye or Moro, who are basically coming out of nowhere and being asked to do this. When it comes to the midfield, yeah, that's the trickiest position in the entire team. This is the real problem area, because for Lazio to be at their best, we need Milinkovic at his best. We need Alberto there. We need Lucas to hold the whole thing together. We need the wing backs. That's kind of where the strength of this team lies. And we're not going to be able to rely on these guys. And when you look beyond them, I thought Cataldi played really well tonight. I really like the fact that I think we suffered without him because he was one of the few players on that pitch who was able to actually try and take the ball to feet and gather the ball and set the pace and set the tempo and get Lazio on the front foot. And without him there, Lazio lost a bit of that, and also he showed amazing kind of heart. I think he gave it everything. You saw him chasing the ball all over the pitch. Defensively, I think he put in a real shift. And for him to go down with an injury, I think was a real loss because I tweeted before the game that this is a real opportunity for Cataldi because he's been waiting for a chance like this to occur. And this was an opportunity for him to say, right, I am the man who can be the successor to Lucas. You know, with Escalante coming in and uncertainty about what the long-term future of that position is, this is an opportunity that he needs to take to be saying, I'm the man who's going to do this. And I think he was having one of those games, but then he does his knee, and now we've lost him.
and I don't know if you agree, Parolo was pretty much invisible. He was one of the subs that we were more confident of, right? He's a sort of a 12 player, you know, a starter. Instead, he was pretty much invisible. While on the other side, I thought Cataldi was the only one running. To reply to Ibrahim Albeti, why are Mr. take Correa off very early? Because he has to be subbed. I thought Correa started well, but then dropped dramatically as well. I think, Alistair, the biggest concern are injury and hope to recover some players and Luis Alberto condition, because he's the key for Lazio. And I never saw a match with Luis Alberto making so many mistakes. This is fundamental for the club, for the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Lazio to be at their best, we need Alberto and Ciro to be at their best because the top assist and top goal scorer in the league. So it's obvious to say that, but neither of those guys had a good game tonight, and as a result, Lazio didn't have a good game tonight, and it's not a coincidence. So it is kind of that simple. I mean, one of the other questions we got from Tom was, do you think Atalanta had the advantage of playing an extra game prior, or do you think we'll struggle to recover form after the break? And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, but I think that to a certain extent, you could argue that Atalanta benefited from having had a game to get ready for this game, and it's a big one to be thrown into as your first match. But on the other hand, like I already said, I honestly think that having seen all these teams returning to action after 3 months or so, I think the Lazio are one of the ones that I've been kind of least impressed by. One of the ones, certainly, that I think has dropped off a level from where they were going into the break.
I'm not sure about that, honestly.
No.
The first 30 minutes, I thought Lazio was the best team I saw from the restart. And playing against Atalanta, that's one of the toughest teams. So, no, I don't agree on that. The biggest problem is the drop-off afterwards. That's the concern. You cannot allow it, especially against a team that run that much. So that's definitely a problem that Lazio have to solve. But, yeah, I thought Lazio played well for the first 30 minutes. And as you were saying, maybe with a better Ciro Immobile, we would have finished the match in 25 minutes. I hope this is not the plan of Inzaghi, of finishing the match after 30 minutes and then collapsing, because I don't think you're going to have that many options to score 3 goals in the first 30 minutes. It's going to be quite complicated. The other thing, Alistair, I thought Johnny didn't play that bad, and this was one of our biggest concern. I thought wasn't exceptional, but he wasn't that bad. I mean, Luis Alberto was far worse than Johnny. And on the other side, I thought Lazzari played great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first goal was just a result of really energetic wing-backs. And I think that was one of the most promising things from this was that Lazzari just, I mean, we've spoken about this before, but that guy has endless energy. And I wasn't worried about his condition in this game at all, actually. And the result of, the reason Derun puts the ball in his own net is that he knows Johnny's on his shoulder ready to tap that in. So I thought that was a really well-worked goal. Milinkovic-Savic's goal was just a brilliant strike. I think that they did create a hell of a lot in that opening 30 minutes. The reason that I'm a bit down on them in terms of the drop off from where they left off is simply the fact that they were so much more passive than what we're used to. And I understand that Inzaghi likes to soak up pressure in order to be able to open up space in the other end of the pitch when they win the ball back, but they were taking that to an extreme in this match, I think, and it was against a team like Atalanta where they have obvious advantages in terms of the players they have and the the wing backs they have, the delivery they're capable of, the ability they have of shooting from outside the box, the guys they have inside the box. I think you're just asking for trouble if you're going to sit that deep and wait for them to attack you. And it wasn't really a great surprise. I mean, obviously, all of the goals we can complain about and have issues with, but it wasn't a great surprise to see them go into the net in the end because of the way that Lazio were kind of approaching the game. And I think that was the biggest disappointment, is that before now you've kind of seen a reason that Lazio are doing things or a reason they're approaching the game in a certain way, and it's kind of like that they're doing it on their own terms. And today it didn't feel like Lazio were playing this game on their terms. They were playing it on Atalanta's terms.
Yeah, I think Lazio was knackered and wasn't able to play. And the other thing is Luis Alberto is the time manager, and he's the one that spread the ball and move it around. And he simply didn't show up today, which is a biggest problem because Saturday there is another very, very important match against Fiorentina. Lazio has to get 3 points to, restart. I don't want to talk about the Scudetto race, but first of all, we have to get the Champions League qualification, which is not sure. Roma won at last, so, nothing is given at the moment for Lazio. So, why are you
well, no, I mean, I like laughing about your little dig at Roma, but I mean, I think that it's a bit too soon to say that, there's been a lot of hot takes like there always are on social media after this result, and I think that it's a bit too soon to say Lazio are completely out of it. Like, that's been quite a popular reaction to this game, is they are 4 points clear now, so it's done. And look, I don't think we will win the Scudetto, but I still don't think it's reasonable to completely write off Lazio's chances because of losing one game. So there's 11 rounds of football left. That's easy to forget because we're almost in July now, but there's basically almost a third of the season left to run. So as long as we actually manage to finish this stretch strongly, there's no reason to think we can't do something. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that honestly, finishing the top 3, top 2, and getting the Champions League would be an amazing achievement. And let's not forget that at any point, because that's so much higher than the bar we'd set going into this season.
Yeah, and I think tonight we even saw why, right? Not good level substitution. So this is going to be a big concern. And as you were saying, there's still a third of the season to play, and a lot of things can happen still. So Lazio has to prove that they're there, that they deserve to do it. Luckily, Inter didn't play that well tonight and lost 2 points at home against Sassuolo. But yeah, there's a tough match on Saturday. We're going to be back on Saturday to talk about Lazio-Fiorentina. Chiesa's not going to be playing. This should be an advantage for Lazio. Inzaghi said that he hopes that Cataldi, Radu, and Correa will be able to play next Saturday. Even because if Correa doesn't play, we don't have that many options there, Alistair.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a big opportunity, the Fiorentina game. I think that's one that Lazio can really target. Wasn't impressed with Fiorentina against Brescia on the weekend. I mean, they're not looking particularly sharp. And yeah, like you say, they're not going to have Chiesa with them. They're also not going to have Martin Caceres, which is probably a shame for us, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, that's... I know people are looking at our games and saying, oh, we've got Fiorentina and Torino coming up and thinking we should be a bit worried about that. But Fiorentina and Torino aren't Fiorentina and Torino teams of old at the moment, and I don't think we should be overly concerned in terms of what they have to offer. Famous last words. But yeah, I mean, these are games that Lazio essentially need to be winning if we're going to be serious about challenging at the top. So yeah, let's hope for something a little bit better.
Yep. Let's hope that someone recovers. I don't think Leva's going to be able to play. Maybe Luis Felipe. I don't know. We're going to see. But Alistair, I think we can wrap it up here. Short and sweet. We're going to be back next Saturday after Lazio Fiorentina. Another very, very, very important match. Thanks again for joining me. And guys, thanks again for listening to us. Remember, we're on Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, and on YouTube. If you want to support the channel on patreon.com/Lazio Lounge, subscriptions start at £2 and visit our store. Thank you, Alistair. Good night.
Cheers.